Hello and welcome back to another session of Grammar Forward. I'm Sonia. This episode is special because this is the last video that belongs to the series on English verb tenses. And today we are going to learn about the future perfect continuous tense. So without wasting time, let's get right into the video and try to explore this tense. Let me give you a brief overview of this tense. We use the future perfect continuous tense to talk about actions that will continue until a point in time or until another event in the future. So just like the future perfect simple tense, we use this tense to project ourselves into the future and then to look back. And almost always, we use the future perfect continuous tense with a time expression. To explain it further, let me use a timeline. So here at 3 p.m., I start waiting for Sarah. So here the action being done is waiting. And Sarah will arrive later at 6 p.m. So that means I will be waiting for Sarah for 3 hours, from 3 till 6. So I can say that I will have been waiting for 3 hours when Sarah arrives. So here I have used the future perfect continuous tense, will have been waiting. You can see that this is a longer action, waiting, and that is a shorter action. And this longer action might start taking place in the past or in the present or in the future, but it always ends in the future. And you can see that for the longer action, I've used the future perfect continuous tense here, and it is combined with another action, shorter action in the future, but I used the simple present to talk about that action in the future, when Sarah arrives. And as I told you before, here I have mentioned the duration of this longer action. How long will I have been waiting? For 3 hours. Although the name of this tense may seem long and complicated, its use and roles are quite easy to understand. So here you have the form on the board, will plus have plus been plus ing form of the verb. So when you look at it closely, you can see that it's composed of two elements. One is the future perfect form of be. So you have will plus have plus been, and you have the present participle form of the verb, that is the ing form of the verb. So that means here we have the modal auxiliary will plus have plus been and the ing form of the main verb. And these three are invariables. That means whether you use it with a singular or a plural subject, these won't change. These are fixed. So you just have to use the ing form of the verb, whichever verb you are using. But there's something you have to keep in mind. When we use the future perfect continuous tense, almost always we use two time expressions. One is the time expression that talks about the duration of the action, and the other one specifies a time in the future. For example, here you have a sentence, we will have been working here for 5 years by next March. So here is the tense I've used, will have been working. And you can see that there's a time expression I've used which talks about the duration of the action for 5 years. And till when? By next March. So here this time expression talks about a specific point in time in the future. Again, by 6 o'clock, he will have been studying for 2 hours. So here is a tense used. That is a time expression which talks about the duration of the action for 2 hours. And here, this time talks about a specific point in time in the future, until when this will have been taking place. Now that you're familiar with the form of this tense, let's try making the affirmative, the negative, and the interrogative forms using the future perfect continuous tense. And let's begin with the positive sentences. So here you have the form on the board, will have been plus ing form of the verb. So here I'm using the first person singular I. I will have been playing. The same form is used, will, have, been, and the ing form of the verb. Now we move on to he. he will have been reading. But there's a change here. Here I've used the contraction, the short form of he will. So here you have he'll have been reading. Now, moving on to the negative, you just have to use the word not to make a sentence negative. But a question is where you use this word, and here the answer is we will not have been working. So you put not in between will and have. We will not have been working. You know that can be contracted into won't. That's what I've done here. You won't have been waiting. So this is the shortened form. So you can see that when we have the negative sentences, we put these two together, will and not, and you have the short form won't. And to make the question, you have to change the order of the words. So here it begins with I will, and to make a question for this sentence, you will have to change it into will you. Will you have been playing? And he will have been reading. And the question is, will he have been reading? And if you want to make a WH question, you can use a suitable WH word here in front of the yes or no question. So in this example, will he have been reading? And you can ask the question word how long. So you have how long will he have been reading? Now let's talk about when this tense is used. So we use the future perfect continuous tense to talk about actions that will continue up until another event or time in the future. So these two examples will make it more clear for you. John will have been working with us for 10 years by the time he retires. So here I have used the future perfect continuous tense, will have been working. And it's clear that this action will go on in future until this event takes place, by the time he retires. That's why I've used this time expression. In the second example, when I reach home, the kids will have been playing video games for 2 hours. So there I've used the future perfect continuous tense, and that's paired with this time expression, which shows that this will have been taking place until this event happens. When I reach home. And you can see that here I've used the simple present tense to talk about that short action which will happen in the future. When I reach home. The future perfect continuous tense could also be used to talk about actions that will finish just before another action or time in the future. Let's take up this example. I will be tired when I get home because I will have been walking for an hour. So you can see that this action will take place in the future. And this takes place because something else will be taking place just before that. And what action is that? I will have been walking for an hour. Just like other perfect continuous tenses, or of course as in the case of the future perfect simple tense, we can also use the future perfect continuous tense to talk about how long an action will continue until another event or time in the future. So here you have two examples. The first one, by the time he arrives, I will have been cooking for more than 2 hours. So here I've used the future perfect continuous tense and I've paired it with this time expression which has for in it, for more than 2 hours. You know that for is an adverb which is used to talk about the duration of an action. The second example, in June, he will have been teaching for 9 years. Here again, the same tense is used and you can see that I've used the time expression with for 9 years. Now let's focus on when not to use the future perfect continuous tense. Just like any other continuous tense, we cannot use this tense with stative verbs. You know that stative verbs are those kinds of verbs which deal with mental activities like thoughts, feelings, emotions, and so on. For example, by next week, I will have been knowing you for an year. So know is the verb which is used here. It's not an action verb, it's a stative verb. So we cannot use it in the continuous form. So we have to use the future perfect simple tense. So the sentence will be, by next week I will have known you for an year. Another sentence, he will have been reaching by 8 in the evening. Reach is yet another verb which cannot be used in the continuous form. So you will have to change it into he will have reached by 8 in the evening. As a part of consolidation, let's take up some of the common errors made when the future perfect continuous tense is used. Let's try to find out the mistakes, and when fixing them, let's practice what we have learned. So here is the first sentence for you. You will have working in the company for 5 years next month. Can you find out a mistake here? You can see that something is wrong with the form itself. The form of this tense is will, have, been, and the ing form of the verb. So here been is working, so that has to be added. So here you have the right version of the sentence. Moving on to sentence number 2. They will haven't been sleeping when you arrive. In this sentence, in fact, all the 4 components of the form are there. You have will, have, not, been, but the order is wrong. It should have been will not have been, and the words should have been clubbed in a different way. So you put will and not together. So you have they won't have been. This is the right order. They won't have been sleeping when you arrive. Here is sentence number 3. I will have been completing reading 3 books by tomorrow. In this sentence, I am talking about an action that will be completed by a point in time in the future, by tomorrow. And what's more, I have mentioned the number of books that will be completed or that will be read. So in that case, I cannot use the future perfect continuous tense. Instead, I should use the future perfect simple tense. So it should be I will have completed, not I will have been completing. So the future perfect continuous tense is removed and I will have completed reading 3 books by tomorrow makes it right. The next one is a question. Will have you been working here for 6 years? So something is wrong with the order of the words. You know that when you ask a yes or no question, you start with will and that will be followed by the subject. So it should be, will you have been working here for 6 years? And here is the last question. He will have been arriving by 6 p.m. Look at the verb I've used here. The main verb is arrive, and you know that it cannot be used in the continuous form. So here I have to go for the future perfect simple tense. So it should be he will have arrived. So just remove this and you have he will have arrived by 6 p.m. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope this session helped you in learning everything you needed to know about the future perfect continuous tense. If you found this helpful, please do like my video, and if you are new with me, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So meet you in the next session. Goodbye until then. Take care and stay safe.